Maybe it's us.
I'm a little
All, be,
jealous.
We
Okay.
froze.
all because of the new video connection.
He stuck his finger in a light socket before I hopped on the meeting.
God, look at there. You have the recording going and
I
everything.
know.
And
So
you
I,
made it.
huh?
And you made it.
And I made it.
Yeah, you said you weren't going to make it.
Yeah, it was dead at the farm today, so they sent me home early. I lost the head coin toss.
Oh, yeah. I bet you hate that.
I do. I wanted the money.
Oh, okay.
So Linda, why did we change the video connection?
Because we got a discount through Rotary International. They got us a discount through Zoom.
Mm.
So and it's $120 a year, at least for the
Great.
first. So saves us money.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I'm gonna, what?
Saving money is good.
Saving money is good. And I'm Swiss, so I like saving money. So I'm gonna introduce our program. Amy Wagger is with Trafficking Hope, and she's gonna talk to us about the down and ugliness of human trafficking and things to look for and stuff like that. So I'm gonna turn it over to her.
Okay, well, thank you so much for letting me be a part of your meeting tonight. I want to be brief and then open for questions. And so I'm going to go through just a quick presentation. I've got some pictures to share. Definitely have a lot of stories. So at the end, if you want stories or specific things, by all means, please let me know, because goodness knows there's all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to share my desktop with you.
Linda,
And,
I've got my computer muted and I'm trying to help John.
okay. Let's share this. All right. So can you guys see that slide okay that says traffickinghope.org? Okay, you can see it. Okay, so Trafficking Hope was founded in 2007 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And it was founded by a pastor and his wife who traveled to Europe to see trafficking firsthand. They actually raise your hand if you've heard of the organization, the 821 campaign. Anybody? It is the world's largest anti-trafficking organization. It's based out of Hillsong Church, which is out of Sydney, Australia. But they traveled over there to go see trafficking firsthand and see what it was like and give them some money to kind of get their organization going. And when they came back here, they were so horrified by what they had seen, and they found out that we actually have that problem here in the US and in Baton Rouge, where they're from. So they decided they couldn't not do something about it. So they formed Trafficking Hope and then put together what is the CARES initiative so that we could figure out exactly how should an organization really tackle this issue. How can you be effective in a community? So we're going to go through, I'm going to quickly go through the CARES initiative, which the pastor that founded it, every pastor has a good affection for acronyms. So CARES is the initiative that we use, and it stands for Coalition, Awareness, Rescue, Education, and Services. What we believe is that for any group of people to be effective, you really have to, this is our 5-pronged holistic approach. You really have to have a hand and work with people in all 5 of these areas. So the coalition portion being very key, like we have to work together. If you're a faith-based organization or not, that doesn't matter. What we really have to do is all come together because we all play a part. Even if you're just riding around town, you pull up at a gas station and you see something, you've got you're deputized after this to make a phone call, to call the National Human Trafficking Hotline and report it. I will tell you that the other trafficking hotline so the National Human Trafficking Hotline, the phone number there gets very backed up and busy right now because fortunately there are a lot of people, there's a lot of awareness, and there are a lot of people that are calling with tips and information. But I'm going to give you another phone number to call. Actually, I'm going to give you that one first because I think I know that one gets answered very quickly. I have had to call in before and report trafficking and have been on hold for over an hour before. And that's the same phone number that we tell victims to call if they need help. So what I'm actually going to give you is the Homeland Security phone number to call. And if you guys want to write this down, the phone number to call Homeland Security, because it always gets answered and it immediately goes to the special agent, the resident special agent in charge of whatever district that you're calling to make the tip about. And then they will send agents out pretty much immediately. The phone number is 866-347-2423. And I'm just going to hold that up right there. So you, oh, is it backwards? Is it backwards? No? Okay. So there's their phone number, 866-347-2423. And I can give you that again later on at the end of the presentation. But if you, after today, you're out and about and you see something, please say something, because we have had, I mean, just a couple of days ago, we had someone see something, say something, and we were able to rescue a child who was getting ready to be trafficked and is 16 years old and 12 weeks pregnant and was being held against her will. So see something, say something, please. So
Okay, I'm not getting any.
we need to work together. Crisis line.
You're freezing up. Amy, if you can hear me, you're freezing up. We're not getting much of what you're saying.
I'll send her a chat.
Okay.
Love technology.
When it's working, it's great.
I know. And when it's not,
It's because Jerry's on the phone.
probably it's his fault.
Yeah, I got to blame somebody.
We'll blame it on Jerry.
Yeah.
He's an easy target.
When you ride a bike that's yellow, what do you expect?
It's a
Can you
bullseye.
hear me okay now?
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
let's try it again.
All right, let's try this thing again.
Yeah.
We're going to quickly run through CARES, Coalition working together with other community groups and law enforcement, awareness, doing events out in the public and just making people aware. And then we give them a phone number or a web address where they can go and connect later on if they actually want to get plugged in. But I think one of the biggest problems and challenges that we face is that a lot of people don't think it's happening in their community. And based on the states and even Canada, I know for a fact, I can give you specific examples from most of these states of cases that we've worked with law enforcement or with other places. So it definitely happens, and it happens in small towns. A lot of people like to think that their town is small and so we're exempt, but that's just not the case. There is a very small town in Alabama. It is a dot on the map. You've never heard of it. I had never heard of it until recent tornadoes actually hit it. But we had a victim who was trafficked from this very small town in Smith Station, Alabama. And I've lived in Alabama most of my life, and I'd never heard of it. And she was trafficked to Portland, Oregon, and then into Washington State. And she was brought there under the guise of doing internet webcams. And then she quickly found out she was in a brothel, and law enforcement was able to recover her and get her out. But it just goes to show you that people in small places can be very easily exploited as well. All right, I'm going to move on. Oh, rescue. We do rescues. We go out on the streets at night. We love to have people that like to ride motorcycles and do things like that to come with us and be our security. We do have one of the head of security when we go out. He is a huge motorcycle fan, and he was very jealous when I told him I was talking to some motorcycle riders tonight. But he's got like his leather on all the time. He looks like he could kill you very easily, but he's just a big teddy bear, and he loves people and is a very compassionate person. So he is our head of security. So I get to hear about his motorcycle stuff all the time. But we do perform rescues. We go on the streets at night. We go to the bad hotels. We go to the bad parts of town. You can't minister to someone if you're not where they're at. So we go there. We go in the bad hotels. We have to talk to the pimp sometimes and ask them to step out of the way. Ask them if they'll let us talk to their girls. We give them hygiene kits. We give them roses. Anything we can to get an opportunity to speak to them. So we do perform rescues. We also get phone calls from law enforcement saying, hey, we have a victim. Can you come and transport them to a facility? And we're happy to do that too. We were on a sting Friday night with police, and I can tell you some stories about that in a little while. The education portion, we do things like this where we educate groups, we educate corporations, businesses, schools. We're now going into schools quite a lot and trying to educate children who are in middle school and junior high because they're the most at risk age bracket, really and truly. The average age of entering into trafficking, sex trafficking specifically, is between 12 and 14 years old. So a lot of people want to wait until their kids are in college to talk about it. They want to wait till their kids are in high school to talk about it. But quite honestly, that's too late. If the average age is 12 to 14, there's also a much younger population that needs to be aware of this. So we do education, and we also do services. The service the letter S stands for going to places that provide care to victims and providing services. There is a house here in Birmingham, Alabama, where I live, that rescues female victims. They built a brand new facility, and it can be very simple things like when they built their new facility, we went out there in 300-degree weather with 9 billion mosquitoes and laid sod in June. It was really hot, but we laid sod. And you know, when we go out there now, we're really proud of that sod. They've got a volleyball court set up on it. Anyway, it's just anything we can do to help alleviate the things that they need going on, we do that. So that's the S portion. So just run through a couple of pictures of what it looks like. This is the coalition. This is some of us a year ago at a trafficking conference here in Alabama. This is the awareness portion. This is kind of what some of it looks like. Just we did like a prayer.
You froze up again, Amy.
All right.
Looks like she's gone. There she is.
Can you hear me now? So this is the awareness.
We need to learn who our internet service provider is so we don't use them.
Exactly.
How about sign language? Maybe that'll work tonight.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes, you're back.
I apologize. My children were each on an iPad. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, so everybody's trying to chop into the internet right now. So as a part of our outreach, this is just a map. This just gives you an example. There we go. We go to all these really bad hotels to set this up. We worked with law enforcement for about 8 or 9 months before we ever went out. We went to several cities that do nighttime outreach. We learned how they do it, how they don't do it. We learned a lot of things. And then we went out with law enforcement one night here in Birmingham, and they took us to all the hotels where it's happening. Now, if they know where it's happening, why are they not shutting it down, right? There's a process there. There's a whole story under that. But we were really grateful for their help. So we go to these really bad hotels and do ministry. And we're actually getting ready. We're spreading that to other cities. I was in Montgomery, Alabama this week, and we actually have people all over the country that use Trafficking Hope that do go out in their cities and do these kinds of things. There's a lot of really cool outreach happening out on the West Coast as well. There's stuff happening in Detroit, Michigan. There's stuff happening in Portland. I don't know if there's anything in Seattle right now. These are some of the cities we go out in. Some of this information. There's the education where we go and speak to school counselors. And then this is us laying that sod that I was telling you about. And that child in the top left picture, that's my now 11-year-old Ava. So you really can be any age and can make a contribution to anti-trafficking efforts. Anywhere from being a young, small child to someone who's a lot older but could still sit around and write cards or pray or something. So lack of knowledge is no longer a defense. There are hotels left and right around the country that are getting sued for their involvement because they are knowingly housing prostitution, knowingly housing victims who are being trafficked. They just see it as prostitution. But these days, they can get charged. So we're also doing a lot of education right now with hotels, the good ones. Like from the Marriott has their own program. A lot of the big hotels have their own training protocol for this because they know that they can get, well, I'm sure they want to help, but also they can go to jail. And their hotel can get sued for having trafficking happen in their hotel. And actually not saying, well, we didn't know it was happening is no longer a defense. So they can still get fined. There was recently a case in Alabama where a girl was being trafficked at a hotel. I want to say it was like a Quality Inn or something like that. Anyway, and the front desk staff knew about it and didn't say anything and didn't do anything. And she was awarded $60,000 to help her kind of get her life together. Okay, I'm giving you guys the real deal explanation tonight. This is one that we normally do for law enforcement. But I feel like if you're out and about in the community, you're probably going to see it. And I feel like you guys can handle the information that we're going to share. If it gets to be too much and you're like, hey, that's too much, that picture was too, just wave at me. I know that you guys have seen a couple presentations, so I'm going to move quickly through some of this. But trafficking is just any works or services that someone is forced to perform. And the main thing I want you to take away is vulnerability. So show of hands, and I am looking at your pictures. So show of hands, who has a child or a spouse or a mother or a family friend, someone that you care about deeply, right? Most everybody. Okay, hands going up everywhere. Who here thinks that they are could possibly be trafficked? Yeah. To be honest with you, anybody is vulnerable. We have seen victims get rescued from ages 0 all the way up to in their 80s. We have seen men get rescued. We have seen little boys get rescued. So there's no gender, there's no race, there's no age, there's nothing that defines it and stops it and says this is going to be a victim. Anyone who has a vulnerable place in their life, which really would be all of us at some point, could be trafficked. And I do want that to come across. Think about children who are in the foster care system who don't have a support system. And when they age out of that program, they don't have, oftentimes, depending on your state, but oftentimes there's nothing for them after age 18. It's just, okay, well, good luck. We hope you do well in life. And so if there's not a real support system, those kids are highly, highly vulnerable to being trafficked. Also, vulnerable populations would include LGBTQ community, kids without a good structure and home support in their home. So that would qualify many kids these days. Types of human trafficking you're going to see: forced labor, debt bondage. The debt bondage is a real big deal. That's something that it gets passed down generation to generation. If you've got people who are coming from other countries to this country and they pay for someone to bring them in, they will probably never get out of that debt bondage. They will be in it forever, because once they get here, they owe money, their documentation is taken, their passports are taken, they don't usually speak the same language, and they really don't know who to run to for help if they're put into sex trafficking. Oftentimes they're raped by people who are in uniforms, so that they're scared to run to someone who's in a uniform that could help them. So, and they're traffickers who will dress up in uniform. So I'm not saying it's law enforcement. They're just people dressed up that way. Domestic servitude, child soldiering, we often see that. We're actually seeing a good bit of that here in the US. You'll often see that as gangs, but people want a place to belong. And so you can get into a family life or a gang life or a child soldiering situation very easily. Organ trafficking is a new thing to really hit the southeast part of the U.S. It was, for a long time, it was thought to be just in Asia. We've talked about Operation Underground Railroad. I met with them about a year ago, and they were showing me video shot with that guy's actual phone while they were in a country, they were in Haiti, and they were down there trying to rescue kids out of sex trafficking. And he was talking about the organ trafficking in Haiti and Dominican Republic for kidneys and how profound it was. And so it's just really close by. And now it's actually here in our country too. And then also the sex trafficking and child sex trafficking is what you're going to see. Most commonly, what you would see here would be forced labor, sex trafficking, and then organ trafficking. It's not coming soon. It's actually here now. So forced labor is going to look like, that will be your migrant workers, restaurants, nail salons. And most of the time, if you're talking about female victims, you're also going to be talking about sex trafficking. So they will dually work them. Sometimes they force them to get a job and then also sex traffic them on the side. So let's talk about the number of victims. If you were to add up and take every man, woman, and child from each of those states in that picture, every man, woman, and child from Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and South Carolina, that is still less than the actual number of estimated slaves currently in the world. That is a conservative estimate. We don't know what the real estimate is. When we are thinking about trafficking, human trafficking as a whole, whether it's the combination of labor trafficking and sex trafficking, that's around 25 million people. To be honest with you, that's a very conservative estimate. We use the International Labor Organization, the ILO. They're a worldwide organization and really have their finger on the pulse of what's going on in labor and trafficking, and they use very conservative estimates. So we're talking conservative numbers. But usually they're a year ago, their most recent study came out and they said just under 25 million labor and sex trafficking people. To get to that 40 million, they're calling in 15.4 million child brides because there are goods exchanged usually for people to marry their children. And these child brides are actually very young. We're talking 5 and 6 years old. Human trafficking is a big business. It's $150 billion a year. The sex trafficking portion is $99 billion. If you add up the revenues, if you add up the net revenues, not the gross, but the net revenues for Walmart and Coke and Starbucks. Yes. Oh, sorry. I was looking at the chat feature. If you add up the net revenues for Walmart and Coke and Starbucks and, hold on, there's one more. Oh, Publix and Fidelity Investments, you're still not getting to that $150 billion a year. So that just kind of shows you that it's a lot of people, a lot of things. Are y'all messaging me on this thing? No? Okay, sorry. Oh, and McDonald's, there you go. Good for me, I actually typed it out for you. $99 billion, Walmart, Coke, Starbucks, and McDonald's, their net estimates are about $99 billion a year. So as you can see, this is a really profitable crime. The average pimp in Atlanta makes about $33,000 a week. So there are some making much more, there are some making much less. What we see out on the streets when we're out and about, you'll get like your average street pimp. Let's say he is kind of a low rent pimp. Let's say he's not making $33,000 a week. He will usually make about $124,000 a year, running about 3 to 4 girls, maybe even 2 to 3 girls, or victims. It could be men as well. Victims are forced to have sex anywhere from 20 to 45 times a day, but it's not just sex, it's sex acts. So that could be different, various things that they're asked to do. But it's not the amount of people that they don't have a quota for how many people they have to service. They have a dollar quota. So if they hit their dollar quota, they they're kind of done for the day, but then again, the pimp can change his mind and say, nope, you're not done, go back out and make more. You want to sell, it's much more profitable to sell a human compared to selling drugs, because with drugs, you have to go back out and get more profit. It's just used one time, but you can sell a human body over and over and over again all day long. In Atlanta, there was an undercover a documentary that was done, and they were interviewing this pimp, and he was talking about, what do you want? I've got Asian, I've got Black, I've got white, I've got Latino. He said, I've got young, I've got girls, I've got boys, what do you want? And he was basically telling the interviewer, you can order a person and really specify them. If you want an 8-year-old, blonde-haired, blue-eyed little boy, you can order that person and I'll get them to you quicker than you can order a pizza, and kind of in the same manner, so you can really customize what you want. I'm going to scroll through some of this so that we don't run out of time, but the Trafficking Victims Protection Act is one of the major laws that we use to fight as a victim advocate. It's one of the major laws that we use to help victims and get them services. When you're prosecuting a case, there are these 3 columns that you have to meet for adult victims. You have to be able to prove one of these things in every one of these categories. When we're talking about children, you do not have to prove something from that middle category. You just have to prove the process and what the goal was. Yeah, and that talks about that. So these are the type of commercial sex acts. So when I was in college, I remember seeing an advertisement for an escort service, and I was pretty naive, and I didn't really know what that was. And I remember the advertisement, and it was saying that you could earn money. And I thought, wait a minute. So you just go out to dinner with like a lonely older man and you get paid for it, and the meal is free, and I'm broke. And so you're just spending time with somebody who's lonely. That's so sweet. That's like a ministry. That's so kind. Well, I should sign up. I didn't sign up. Thank God that there was a guardian angel somewhere looking at me going, what is this chick doing? And I never did it. But one of the biggest things that we're seeing right now is escort services, especially among college-age children. Or college-age young adults. They get into it. We're seeing fraternities and sororities that are doing trafficking, and we're talking about your very popular sororities, your big campus name sororities, you have a big sister who's teaching the new little sister how to make money in college. What they don't know, what they haven't realized yet, is that big sister who's teaching the little how to do it is actually under the control of a pimp. And she's been told, you have to bring in 1 to 2 new people so that you can get out. So this is a major thing happening all across college universities here in the US. Webcam services are very popular right now as well. But the rest of the stuff you probably kind of know: peep shows, pornography, phone sex, things like that. You have a pimp, and then his number 1 person is the girl that's been with him the longest. She's called the bottom, or the bottom bitch. And the stables, those are the people that they're running. Those are their victims that they're making go out and work out on the circuit. They travel a circuit, and in a little bit I'll show you a map of law enforcement has a free app that they can use where they put in a phone number, and it will populate a map everywhere in the US that phone number has been used to place an ad for sex online. And it tells how many times they've placed that ad online. And it'll really populate and light up this map and show us exactly where that person is going and how often they're doing it. And we call that the circuit. The John, or the people, that's the men and the women that pay for the services. The John gives the money, and all of the money goes back to the pimp, and he's in charge of everything. Sometimes he'll give them food, sometimes he won't. Sometimes he may give them money to get their nails done. Most of the people that are being trafficked here in the United States are actually from the United States for sex trafficking, but we do have them coming from Mexico, Philippines, Thailand, Honduras, El Salvador, and India. They do come from all over. These are the main places that when we get a victim rescue that we're seeing them come from. This is one of the circuits. This was a girl's phone number that we tracked, and it shows the circuit where she goes from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham up into Tennessee, really out of Memphis. There's a lot of trafficking that happens out of Memphis. Let's see, there's no one here from Tennessee right now. But this shows you a 48-hour timeline. This shows you how much they move. In 48 hours, she was in each one of these cities. So oftentimes when we get a victim, they have no clue what state they're in. They don't know what city they're in because they have moved all over the place and they can't tell you where they are. This was on a sting operation one night with the police. We used a girl's phone number and populated that Spotlight app that I was telling you about. And it shows you, it really shows you where she goes. She goes into Tennessee, Alabama, and Mississippi and Louisiana the most. And it's kind of like a little circuit that she runs. These are a lot of the gangs. You know, the Bloods and the Crips are a really popular gang the nation over, but we do have a lot of gangs that operate trafficking. These are brandings. These are tattoos that are forced onto victims. The tattoo on the far right, I know that that's very hard to honestly grasp and comprehend, but that is a branding that a pimp had a girl get to tailor to pedophiles and people that like to have sex with children. Very often you're going to see the stars. We call that the trail of stars. So we are often able to identify victims based on the brandings and the markings that the pimps force them to get. The next slide shows a couple of other tattoos. These are pictures that I took myself of a victim one day when we were interviewing her. The one that says Courtney, her name is not Courtney. That was the name of her pimp. And they mark them just like a rancher would mark their cattle so that they know they belong to someone. And for the rest of their life, they have to look in a mirror and know that they belong to someone. We do work with organizations that will help remove those for free, though. Oh, forget to click that. So it's a very highly organized crime. It's very well run usually. Oftentimes it's very high level. Here in the state of Alabama, any type of illicit massage parlors are run by one of two gangs, period. They're run by the Chinese mafia or they're run by another mafia. I believe it's the Russian mafia? I can't remember. I was just talking to the lead investigator for our entire state for all of the massage parlors. And he said that the country over, it's very highly run. This was a map that we got. It's called a trap map. And this was actually a victim. It was two female victims that were taken in on a police sting operation one night. And this was the map that they had color coded to show how good the money was in these different states. And we keep asking people when we get them here in our state, why do you keep coming to Birmingham, or why do you come to Tuscaloosa, kind of depending on what city we're in? And they often say, well, the money's good and we don't get beaten up by the people as much, the people paying for services. So that just shows you they color coded their maps. There are sting operations that happen all across the country. There is something, and this is one thing that you guys can all do. There is something called the National Johns Suppression Initiative. A John is someone that we call any person, male or female, that purchases sex. Twice a year, law enforcement has the opportunity to participate in the National John Suppression Initiative. And this is where they go out and they do sting operations and they pretend to be, the female law enforcement officers pretend to be selling services and they get arrested for it. I've been there on all of these, and it never ceases to amaze me, the type of people. It's you, it's me, I mean, pastors, husbands, soccer coaches. We had a guy come in one time who was getting ready to lead worship at a church the next morning, and he was going to be offered the youth pastor position, and he's a sex addict. And so he was going to practice leading worship that night, and he had about 45 minutes to kill before he had to show up at the church to practice leading worship. Because he's a sex addict, he found an ad and came to visit an undercover officer. And I kind of felt bad for him. So our job when we're there is to not condemn them because they need help too. Our job is to just explain to them, because they may not know that they're participating in trafficking and what that does to someone. So we very kindly and gently explain that to them. And then we try to offer them services and get them some help because they need help too. And this poor man he was so disgusted with it. He was vomiting in a trash can for about 45 minutes before they could even haul him off to jail. Okay, let's talk about social media and kids. So all of these apps have connectivity, and all of these apps have been used in the trafficking of children. Can you name all those apps? No, I can't either. I can't either unless I've got the key in front of me, which I do. But I can guarantee you that the young people in your life probably know most of those apps. And some of them we can name: Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, and maybe Snapchat. But the rest of it, I don't know. But all of these are used to traffic children. They all have chat functions. If the young people in your life are doing Fortnite is an online game where you can connect with other people. That is one of the #1 gaming systems that's used to traffic children right now. Older people will get in touch with them through their present as a young person and eventually talk them into meeting up with them. If you look at the two apps in the bottom right corner of the screen, one of them looks like a calculator. It's the plus, the minus, the multiplication sign, and the equals. It looks just like your Apple calculator app, right? If you're going through a young person's iPad or their phone and they have two calculator apps, I guarantee you they are not that into math. They do not need that many calculators. One of them is what we call a vault app. Vault apps are where you can hide all of your secure pictures and videos for your sexting and things like that. So what happens is that it looks like, I should have downloaded it to show it to you, but you open it up and it looks just like a calculator, and then you type in decimal, whatever your code is, decimal, and the screen slides over and it opens like a vault, and that's where you have all your illicit material that you can hide from your parents and things on your phone. The app to the far right on the bottom next to the calculator app, it is a picture of an app that has other apps inside of it. It is also a vault app, but it's for putting secret apps inside of an app, and then it locks people from getting out of there. So most young people have a couple of different Instagrams or a couple of different Facebook accounts, especially in the world of trafficking. They'll have their public account where they friend their grandparents and their parents and their aunts and uncles and friends and everything. And then they've got a whole separate account where they're being trafficked on, and they will hide that app and their messaging apps inside of one of these vault apps. So we have a lot of education that we need to do. These are things to look for to spot a fake or vault app. Look for duplicate apps. I swear to you, your kids are not that into calculations. They don't have two calculator apps. App hiders. I really encourage people to be very proactive with their children in searching their gaming devices, their apps. I think that connectivity and finding other friends with gaming things like Fortnite. I mean, I have personally seen so many kids get trafficked on that. It's unreal. Know the warning signs. What to look for. I want to talk a little bit about this since you're out and about. If you run across someone who is fearful, they can be very timid. They probably will not make eye contact with you. They are often very depressed, very submissive. They may be on drugs. Many of them are on a good bit of drugs. I've got a girl right now that I've been working with since May, and I'm trying to get her into her second shelter, her second place. It'll be the 4th time I get her somewhere, and I can't keep her sober long enough to get her to do the interview. We're supposed to do an interview on Friday with this other facility, and I'm like, baby, please don't do heroin, please. So they're very often doing a lot of drugs, and they're addicted, and they can't get out of it. They will avoid eye contact on the street. If a victim, I'm going to say girl, but it's victim too. If a girl makes eye contact with somebody else, with another pimp, it's just kind of the street lingo. That pimp can now take ownership of her. So they are trained not to make eye contact with anybody. So they probably won't make eye contact with you. You can ask them if you suspect, hey, do you have control of your money? Do you have a driver's license? They are not going to have a driver's license. All of their identification will have been taken. The only thing they'll probably have is a phone. That way they can communicate with the next customer and with their controller, their pimp, or the bottom who's in charge of them. You're going to see a lot of brandings and tattoos. Usually it'll be like initials with a crown. It'll be across their neck. Sometimes they use an actual barcode. For young people in high schools, you're going to see them, a change of friends. They're all of a sudden getting their nails done, their hair done, new clothes, things that they didn't normally have. So these are just signs to look for in victims. William Wilberforce was a great abolitionist back during the slave trade, and We can look the other way, but we can't ever say that we're not informed at this point. So I've gone through some slides with you and just given you a little bit of information, things to look for. I really do want you guys to have that that Department of Homeland Security phone number, the tip line in your phones. Again, I'm going to tell it to you. It's 866-347-2423. So that's Homeland Security. They do answer their phone. Normally we would give out the National Human Trafficking Hotline, but you're going to get a greater response if you suspect someone is a victim of trafficking. And I tell you this, just call. If you're at a gas station or somewhere or a bar or a club, the girl that I'm helping and trying to keep her sober long enough to do an interview to get into a place, she's going to bars around Birmingham here and picking up clients. So if you're at a bar or something and you see somebody and they're kind of working it, please call. You can do it anonymously. You don't have to give your name and your information, but you never know whose life you may actually change and you may actually rescue someone. I promise you, I just had this happen on Thursday. One of our people made a phone call about a young child she saw at a restaurant. And within moments, we had the police on them, had given them their information, and she was able to get this 16-year-old who is 12 weeks pregnant and get her rescued from the lady who had her. So you just never know, and it can happen very quickly. So please, please, please call if you see someone that you know. Okay, that for me. Okay, the number again.
Yeah, Jerry wants to know what the number is.
Okay, so the number again is 866-347-2423. Thank you. Hey, someone typed it. Very good. That goes to the Department of Homeland Security. So we will have a very close relationship with them. And I know a lot of people, they catch a lot of flack for ICE and customs and that kind of stuff. They are the only agency that can issue a continuing presence. If someone has been a victim of a crime, but they're from another country, they will not deport them. They will not deport them. They can issue them continuing presence. The FBI cannot do that. Nobody else can do that except for them. So they have to go through them to get their continuing presence. And I have personally seen them. In fact, I actually just got a text a minute ago from the resident agent in charge here of this office. He's still at the office signing paperwork, helping international victims who are being trafficked. And here in Birmingham, it's 6:45 at night. So they work very hard to help victims. So I highly recommend you call them because it will go directly to the leader of that office in that area. Okay. I've given you a lot of information. I know we're going to run out of time soon. One of the main things that we do is we help anyone who is a part of a faith-based organization and they want to set up their own anti-trafficking program. We have curriculum that we give away for free. They can partner with us for free. We give them everything that we have. All of our stuff is online, and we are more than happy to give that away for free and help people get their own program set up there. Parents. Oh, yes. So we made a movie, Trafficking Hope made a movie called Caged No More. You can go online and watch it or buy it. And there's also a 4-week curriculum that goes along with that if your faith-based organization wanted to partner with us. But it's a movie about familial trafficking. It's about a father who sells their child. That is probably, I don't want to say it's the number one type of sex trafficking, but it's very easy to traffic someone that you're in the same house with. We see that time and time and time again. For young kids, the main thing that's happening to young kids that are being trafficked, it's an aunt, it's an uncle, it's a dad, it's a mother. I cannot tell you how many times I've sat and talked with the victim and they talk about how their mother sold them for $40 and a hit of crack over and over and over again. So people who'd be there to protect these children are very oftentimes trafficking the children themselves. All right, so let me open this back up. Okay. So we made a movie in order to show just that, because oftentimes people see the movie Taken and they think, well, that's trafficking. That's what it is. But to be honest with you, that's yes, kidnappings do happen, but the statistics do not support that data. the main type of trafficking you're going to see is family trafficking or very close relationship trafficking. And then also you're going to see traffickers getting to young people online through social media. That social media is the number one way to get to a child if you're not living in the house with them or a close family friend with them. We see traffickers that enroll other children. We see traffickers that enroll other children that they're trafficking in schools in an area where they live with the sole intent to make friends with other students at that school and then bring them over. Hey, come on, we're going to go over here and hang out. I just met somebody the other day that this happened. They went to go hang out with a group of friends, and that group of friends got them drunk, put something in their drink. They had a bunch of people rape them, and they took videos and pictures of it, and then they used that against them and say, if you don't do what we tell you to do, everybody at school is going to see this video and this picture. And then because of shame and the feelings and the depression that goes along with it, that child will do whatever they tell them to do. And they don't have, when we think of trafficking, we often think of moving one person from one location to another. That is not trafficking. Trafficking can happen. I know of an instance where there was a mother that was cooking spaghetti in the family kitchen, great family, and the child was on a webcam taking pictures 2 rooms away because her boyfriend has all these sexting pictures and videos that he holds against her and makes her do all this stuff with the threat of being exploited. He's exploiting her, but with the threat of exposing her and what she's been doing. So very often that happens. Are there any questions? What do you want to know?
Yeah, with your website, if I were to go to your website, is it possible to find out what's available, what has been set up in our respective local areas? Because we're all over the place, Canada,
Right.
US, all over the country. I'm from South Carolina.
Okay. So I'm going to probably direct you to Shared Hope International. Actually, you know what? I think we work with a church in South Carolina. But Shared Hope International rates, they have a report card where they rate every state A through F of how they're doing. And you can learn about your state and how you're doing.
Okay.
I can't go through here and pull up everybody's state, but they'll tell you, they break it down into different categories, what your current laws are, what resources you have for victims, and they'll break it down. So go to Shared Hope. I can type that in the chat feature here.
Okay, got it.
Or where is it? SharedHope.com. I never know if it's ordered.com for all these places.
So it's .com? Oh,
Good
okay.
stuff.
All right. Got it.
Amy, if I may ask a question, how severe are the consequences when these pimps and so forth appear in court? You would think that they would have the book thrown at them for life.
Yes, you would think that, but it's a Class A felony. It depends on your state. Different states have different charges, but if you bring them up on federal charges, it's a Class A felony. And it can be up to 20 years in prison. Depends on how many counts they have against them. You have to have a good prosecutor you have to have people that know how to get the evidence. If you don't stack up enough evidence, the case will get dropped. But you've got to have people that have been highly specifically trained in gathering evidence and details for trafficking cases. We have a lot of law enforcement who are very good at doing homicide cases, and they think that they can copy and paste that skill set over into trafficking, and it's just a totally different world, totally different element. So if it can get prosecuted, the punishment is severe. There are several pimps who are doing life in prison now because they had so many counts against them. So usually about 20 years is what they would get. But it depends on what they can prove. Oftentimes you'll see sex crime charges get prosecuted and they don't have what they think it takes to prosecute under sex trafficking. So they'll give it a lesser sentence, like a sex crime, like a rape or something like that. And it's trafficking, but for whatever reason, they don't know how to do the prosecution or they gather the evidence. So they'll charge them with a lesser crime. So there are people that are getting by on lesser crimes, lesser charges. But every state different. And honestly, so last year we did this major sting operation and they arrested 47 men for purchasing. Now, granted, these are not traffickers, but they're part of the problem. We wouldn't have this problem if there wasn't a demand for it. If there's someone willing to pay for it, we've got a problem. So we had, it was a 4-day sting operation, a lot of resources, a lot of time, a lot of officers donating their time to do this away from their families, and it's an all-night thing. And then we found out about 8 months later that the DA dropped all the charges against those people.
Yep.
So you have to make sure that the people in your county or your city are willing to prosecute. What other questions do you have? All right, so let me ask you this. When I speak, I normally get one of 4 personality types. I normally get the first person who goes, I don't want to hear this. Go away. You're a scary lady. Okay, it's fine. I get it. I was there at one point. And then I get the person who goes, okay, I'm interested. I'm going to learn more. Send me some resources. Fine. We'll send you some resources and some websites to go to. Then the third person I talk to goes, hey, look, I'm in. I'm going to lead small groups. I'm going to do awareness campaigns. I'm going to do that stuff. And then we get that fourth type, the type 4 person. I love these people. I am these people. We get that person who goes, hey, I carry a gun. Let's go hit the streets. We're going to Liam Neeson this situation. We're going to go start shooting bad guys and rescuing victims and kicking in doors. And I'm that person, like, send me, I'm ready to go. What we want to do is take that person and kind of channel the crazy and put it into some positive, effective, make you a positive and effective weapon to battle this. So we usually get one of 4 responses. I hope I haven't scared anybody off. But there are ways that all of you can be involved. Number 1, see something, say something. Go ahead and call. Make the call. If you suspect something, make the call. We all know in our areas that there's like a red light district. We all know where those are. It's the shady roach hotels where we won't stay on family vacation. And you just know what's going on there, right? You can cruise through there and make a phone call. The more phone calls and emphasis that you put when you actually see something happen, the more law enforcement, the more attention it's going to draw for law enforcement, and the more pressure is going to get put on them to go to these places. So what other questions do you guys have?
I think it was a great presentation, very informative.
Oh, thank you. We do, a lot of people ask me, so what's it like when you finally see a victim? Do they run up to you? They're ready to get in your car. They're ready to go. And the truth is that one of the problems that law enforcement faces is that they can sit in front of a victim person they know is a victim. They find all the evidence. They'll talk to them for 2 hours. And then that person will say, nope, I'm doing this of my own will. That's my boyfriend. They'll call him daddy or something like that. But all they know is protect him. I have no life outside of him or her, whoever their trafficker is. So they will protect him or her at all cost. When they come up to us on the streets and we know for a fact they're a victim of trafficking, maybe we've seen their ad online and we know that they're selling, you would think they would run to us because we'll take them to a place where they can live for free. It's gorgeous. There's a lake. They can fish. They get counseling. They don't pay anything. They don't owe anything. And it's just amazing. It's gorgeous. And it's so completely far into them. The mind games and the mind warping that these victims go through is just so unreal. I had a victim one time that I was helping who was in she was in Minnesota, was trafficked in Colorado, was actually in Minnesota, and I was getting her into a program in Atlanta, and she was so terrified that on the application she refused to put her social security card because her trafficker told her, if you ever put your social security number on anything, I will find you. I can track you.
Yes.
And it's total junk. It's just not true. But I mean, I had to work with her for probably a week on just that one part of the form to fill out because they don't run. It's not because they're chained up somewhere and they're in handcuffs. It's because of the mental chains that are completely surrounding them and they're scared to death.
Amy, one of the big things with victims like that they have learned through experiences not to trust the system. You know,
Right.
Police officers go out, they plug in the bad guy into the system, but the failure oftentimes is with the court system. And I'm a 30-year veteran, retired, and have seen it, lived with it, still have the bitter taste in my mouth. Can enumerate numerous cases where that has happened. And there is no rhyme or reason as to what's right or wrong. It just happens. It's the system.
Yeah.
Life is fair, and it's very difficult to deal with individuals who have been harmed by the system. It solidifies them in that subculture that they exist in, and it's tough. But it's good that there are people like you and the organization that you participate with that is doing something, because without it, these people really and truly wouldn't have much of anything, certainly no hope.
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we do is victim advocate. And I'm actually working with a victim right now, the 16-year-old who is pregnant. And every single system that should have caught it, that should have helped her, has completely failed her. From the education system, she was truant. She hasn't been to school since she was 15 years old. So well over a year now. And she should have been reported as truant. In one of the counties, they kicked her out of the school because she was living with a grandmother who was actually taking care of her, but grandmother was not legal custodian. So they kicked her out of that school, and they made her to go back and stay with her mother, who was not taking care of her. Then she went to live with her father, her birth father, in a different county. They kicked her out of school there because he's not the legal custodian, and they don't have the money to go back and fight in court. So then she goes back to this place. And so the school system failed her. The officer that pulled her over and got her out of the car honestly was trying to let her go with her captor, with the trafficker, until we got on the phone and yammered enough and raised enough cane to say, take her to the precinct. So it wasn't, the officer wasn't trying to be rude. She just didn't know. She didn't know the red signs. She didn't know why we had called and reported it. And they were giving a very compelling story that, oh, this is my friend. I'm helping her, just giving her a ride. So then also we made the mother take off a day of work, compensated her for her time, so that she would go down there and advocate for her child and fill out a certain form to sign away her rights as a parent. We don't normally advocate that, but that's the only thing that's going to save this child and the child she's carrying. And because it will put DHR in process. Well, the person at DHR refused to let her fill out the form, said, no, you don't want to do that. Don't fill this out. 15 people are saying, please do that. Please do this for your child. And she wouldn't do it. So, actually the supervisor wouldn't let her fill the form out and do it. So we've got multiple systems that are failing these children. So we can't rely on the system. We've got to rely on you and you and you and you and people like us who are sitting here, who are learning things about it, to get involved, be an advocate. One of the best things that you can do is be a mentor. There are children, there are boys and girls who are starving for attention, starving for someone to be there specifically for them. And you don't have to have all the money in the world, and you don't have to have it all together. Can you just go and be a positive role model? Great. Because a lot of them don't have that. And so that's why they get caught up in these type of life situations. So honestly, people that are in you guys' situation, if you can mentor a kid, like go hang out with them once every other week. Go take them for a ride on your motorcycle. Go show them that there's more to life than living a life of crime and that kind of stuff. You could be a huge weapon and a catalyst in the life of that child. So there you go. Go work. I'm just kidding. Are there any other questions?
I've got two. One, can you email me a copy of your presentation?
I will take out some of the pictures because they are used in federal cases and I can't distribute it, but yes, I can email you a copy of the presentation.
Okay, that'd be great. Some of the guys want that. And then how do we find out about becoming a mentor?
Ooh, so I would call, you'll have to look up locally since you guys are all across the board. That's going to be hard. Every state has a governor's task force or a statewide human trafficking task force. Every state should have one. You can call your task force and ask for mentoring programs and see what they know. That's going to be what I'm going to have to do with you guys, since you're all over the place, is look for call your state-run task force. If you get nowhere with that, you can call me and I'll be happy to try to help you find something. But call your human trafficking task force and see if they have, most of them have MDTs, multiple disciplinary teams. And so that would be on that team. Oftentimes churches in the area run those and have mentoring programs. Boys and Girls Club is a big one, big national organization, United Way. Yeah, so they do a lot of good work. So Boys and Girls Club is a really good one. I would definitely call them if you have that in your area. Otherwise, call the your state task force and find out what they've got going on.
Okay, perfect.
That's one of the best ways I can tell you to get involved. I will send you a copy of that presentation. Again, I'm going to have to take out a couple of the pictures though.
That's fine. That'd be great.
Presentation. Okay. What other questions do you have?
Any other questions?
Okay.
Thank you for the informative presentation.
I scared everybody to death.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you guys so much. And thank you for all you're doing. And y'all have fun. And please be safe out there.
Oh, thanks, Amy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Amy. Hey, if anybody can stay on for 5 minutes, I got a new IFMR North America logo I'd like to share and get feedback and opinions on for about 5 minutes.
You want to share?
I'll wait till our meeting's over and the recording stops.
Okay. Shall we?